Supergirl number 8, written by Michael Green and Mike Johnson, art by George Perez. Last issue was the final fight between Supergirl and the World Killers, and this issue picks up immediately afterwards of her still standing in the rubble with the army and whatever all around her, and she's a little bit concerned over the fact that she just had a knockout battle. She is very weak, and there's a bunch of guns pointed at her face, and she really doesn't want to fight. And the soldiers are like, "Stand down, miss, we're going to take you into custody." And she, of course, can't understand them, but she gets the gist of it. So she puts her hands up in front of her and says, "Oh, please, I don't want to fight you. I'm not the enemy." To which the soldiers are like, "She's got her hands up. She's going to fire off an energy blast or something. Everyone guns up." And then the Irish woman from, I think it was 2 issues ago, steps in and was just like, "Hey, everyone, don't shoot." And she runs in and protects Supergirl. And it's like, she just saved your lives. What is wrong with you? And then she starts talking to Kara in Kryptonian. And Kara's like, "What? Are you, what?" And immediately the girl's like, I'm good with language. Just don't worry about it right now. I'm going to save you." And so she's arguing with the soldiers, telling them, like, "Hey, don't, like, she's good. And she's like, oh, the soldiers are basically like, "You're both being brought into custody then. Hands up, let's go." And Supergirl's like, "I really don't want to deal with this." So she just grabs the girl and then starts flying up, to which the soldiers react by opening fire. Supergirl wraps up herself and the girl in her cape, which completely deflects the bullets. And then Supergirl just screams out, "Leave me alone," as she zooms off. And the soldiers, instead of just letting it go, are like, "All right, let's call in the air support." So Supergirl's flying over Manhattan, and the girl is just loving this. I completely forget if we get her name by now. It's Siobhan. I should have looked that up before I said this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say Siobhan. And Siobhan's just like, "Wow, oh man, this is awesome up here. Hey, drop me and then catch me again. That'd be epic." And she's like, "Okay, well, I gotta land real quick." So they crash on the roof of a building, and they just get to talking and understanding what her power set is. And apparently she's from Dublin. She moved here to start a new life, and she has the ability to, anytime she hears like any part of a language at all, even just briefly, she can immediately understand how to form full sentences and like totally fluent. And she proves this by looking over at a pigeon who's cooing, and then she coos back, and now she can talk to pigeons. So Siobhan gets a little bit out of Supergirl as well, learning that she's from Krypton. She's an actual alien. And Supergirl gets a little bit sad about it because, you know, her plan is destroyed. But then she's like, "Oh, well, then you could just stay with me. Everything's cool. Come on, let's go to my house." But before they can, the air support shows up from the military, and Supergirl immediately is pissed about this, and she flies over, grabs the helicopter, like shakes one of the men loose, and is just like holding him by the collar and just screaming to leave her alone. And then Cylon's like, "Hey, you're a lot stronger than them and you're scaring them, so maybe don't do that. Let's just go." And she's like, "Yeah, you're right." So she lets the helicopter go, and they fly off over towards Siobhan's place, which is just an apartment complex in the middle of the city. And so they hop in through the skylight, make their way inside the building, and it's a mess, but, you know, it's home. So she's cleaning up a little bit, and we see on TV there's a report of Supergirl, and it's basically playing her off to be this huge, dangerous enemy, and she's public menace #1. And Cybon finally asks the question, like, "Hey, you know, you're wearing that S thing on your chest. You related to Superman?" And by the way, the TV is the one who called her Supergirl, like, because she's wearing the S thing on her chest. And Supergirl's like, "Okay, well, it's complicated. I'd rather not go into it." Cybon's like, "Cool, no problem. But you need to go incognito, so let's change your outfit." And she's like, "Oh, I'd rather keep this on. It's kind of sentimental." And she's like, "Cool, right, I get that. Nothing wrong with sentimental, but you really need to change." And also there's a bit in here of learning that Cybon also lost her parents. Her father died when she was young, and her mom died a year ago. That's why she moved, and now she's here. And on her arms, she has 2 runes, one that looks like an S and one that looks like a B. in case the cover to this story didn't immediately ruin what this reveal was going to be. So yeah, it's apparently the B is for father. But regardless, they mourn each other's losses. They share a moment and they're like, all right, cool, enough whining. Let's get out in the greatest city in the world. And it turns out that she's also a musician. She plays guitar and sings. And she's got a gig tonight at a coffee house. So they make their way downtown, and Supergirl's super hearing is making it really difficult to be here. But she's focusing and just trying to make sure she can only hear Sivon's voice, and she's getting control of it. So they make their way into the coffee house, and Sivon starts singing, and apparently Supergirl's enthralled. Her voice is beautiful, and she's having a great time. Meanwhile, some guy comes up and is like, hey, I haven't seen you around here before. What's your name? And she's like, I don't speak. He's like, cool. Is that Polish? And then as she's continuing to talk, this guy's jaw just like opens up unnaturally. His eyes start glowing. And then she looks around and sees the entire crowd is doing that. And they're all just screeching. And then Sivon finally stops singing. She looks out and she's like, oh shit. And she grabs Supergirl and tries to make their way for the exits because apparently this is her father's doing. And he's like devouring their souls or whatever in an effort to get to Sivon. And we see the father is there, and his name is Black Banshee, and he starts torturing Sivon as well, to which Supergirl immediately responds negatively, fires off some heat vision at the guy, but he's magic, so it doesn't actually really do anything to her. So he grabs Kara by the throat, throws her aside, and as she's trying to get up for round 2, Sivon stops her, now transformed into the Silver Banshee. And she's just accepted, like, I thought I could run from him, but I was wrong. Now and forever I am Silver Banshee. So they really rushed that. Like, it's cool. It's a good enough story. And if they didn't feel like they had anything else, fine, whatever. But it's like, we got everything about this character and saying how, like, oh, I'm trying to start a new life and I'm trying to get away from my past and I'm trying to change all these things about me. And then the last page is like, nope, I was wrong. I'm Silver Banshee. Sorry to disappoint you. And it's like, all right, well, what was the point? Like, that was literally the focus of the entire issue, was building up how she can change. And then in the last page, you're like, JK, LOL. So that's a bit iffy, but I do like the story overall. The art is very good. I can't remember how it really compares to the previous art of the last arc, but it's fine. It's good overall. My only complaint is there's some weird eyes every once in a while, but very mild complaint. So yeah, no, it's just, it felt really fast-paced in the story, but then it's like, why though? Did you have to? I guess the real reason is there's not a supervillain right now. Like, you could have introduced Black Banshee on the final page and then saved Silver Banshee for the next issue, but I'm sure they have a plan. It just felt really rushed to me. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 6 and 6.5. I'll give it the 6.5 because it is good. It looks good. It's a fine enough story. It's just in the larger sense that it feels really rushed, and I would have liked that to be a bit better paced.